Iraq. As long as the president goes unchecked by the Congress, our troops will remain needlessly at risk. For the sake of our troops, for the sake of national security, Congress should use the power of the purse to end the funding for the war and safely redeploy our troops from Iraq. That's Senator Russ Feingold. That's right. So we want to acknowledge a few of our friends who are here on the stage who will not get to speak to you today. Congressman Wynn from Maryland, Congressman Nadler from New York. Give them a shout. They've introduced legislation and signed onto legislation to cut the funding for the war. But now I want to introduce to you a very special friend. He's been fighting on Capitol Hill for peace and justice for decades, and now he's in the driver's seat. He's the chair of the Judiciary of the House, Congressman John Conyers from Michigan.
Brothers and sisters, I'm so glad you're all here. We've got to hold more of these, just like on Election Day, November 7th, until our government gets the message. Out of Iraq immediately this year. You gotta go. Hello, Detroit. You came all the way in buses for 10 hours. I hear you. Hello, Code Pink. I hear you. Hello, Institute of Policy Studies. I hear you. But George Bush has the habit of firing military leaders who tells him the Iraq war is failing. But let me tell you something. He can't fire you. He can't fire us. But we can fire him. Maureen Dowd said this morning. Has anyone in the history of the United States ever been so singularly wrong and misguided about such phenomenally important events and continued to insist he's right in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary? Has there ever been anybody in American history? There certainly hasn't. Now, we marched and protested and legislated against segregation and then against the Vietnam War. Today, we march and protest and legislate against the war in Iraq, and we continue the great tradition of struggle of the people. Today's march is a continuation of the vote on November 7th. The history's clear. When our country's at a moral crossroads, it takes the cries and the outrage of American people to force Washington to do the right thing. That's why we're here. President Bush is the commander-in-chief of the military, but he is not the commander-in-chief of the citizens of this country. Vice President Cheney has said repeatedly, Congress can't stop me, but we must stop him. We're going to stop him. And so the founders of our country gave the Congress the power of the purse because they envisioned a scenario exactly like the one in which we find ourselves today. Not only is it within our power to stop Bush, it is our obligation to stop Bush. The founders of our country gave the Congress the power of the purse because they envisioned a scenario exactly like the one in which we find ourselves today. Not only is it within our power, but we're going to do it by holding rallies every week, every month, every day until we stop this illegal, immoral war in Iraq. We've got to do that. And with your help, the people can prevail. We stopped the war in Vietnam, didn't we? With Dr. Martin Luther King, we did the civil rights movement, and with marches we did it. And we're going to do it again. Thank you for being with us today. All of these members of Congress are with you. Victory.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Now, we're going to move on. I know it's warm out there, but I know you want to march. And we got a few more speakers, so we're asking all the speakers to move quick. And we want to hear now from our next Congresswoman, Lynn Woolsey, co-chair of the Progressive Caucus. She's introduced an omnibus peace bill. Lynn Woolsey.
Thank you. Thank you, United for Peace. United for Peace and Justice. Thank you, Win Without War. Thank you, Peace Action. Thank you, Progressive Democrats of America. Thank you, Code Pink, for making today happen. Let's hear it for the organizers. But most of all, thank all of you. Your very presence, your passion has taken us this far. And we are not going to stop until we end George Bush's immoral Iraq war. Americans don't want to send our young men and women into the middle of a civil war, a war we shouldn't have been in the first place. We've injured, over the last 4 years that we've endured bloodshed and mayhem, more than 3,000 American lives lost, countless physically and mentally wounded, tens of thousands of Iraqi civilians killed, hundreds of billions of dollars wasted, our global credibility shattered, terrorists emboldened rather than defeated. We all know it's not about winning or losing, it's about doing the right thing. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this, except the president. He asks us to sacrifice more of our tax dollars so he can win in Iraq. You know what they say? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. Fortunately, we have an antidote to this insanity. It's not another Iraq study group. It's not a new committee to debate what to do next. It is what you sent us to do last November. It's called H.R. 508. Its long title is the Bring Our Troops Home and Iraq Sovereignty Restoration Act. And it would end the U.S. occupation in Iraq within 6 months, saving lives and limbs and money and America's standing in the world. H.R. 508 is the only comprehensive legislation that puts us on the fast track to a fully funded military withdrawal from Iraq. Congresswomen Maxine Waters and Barbara Lee and I have introduced H.R. 508 in the Congress, but you are the true authors of this legislation. It is your will that H.R. 508 carries out. So when you go to the Capitol on Monday, when you go to Capitol Hill, and when you contact members of Congress in the coming weeks and months, and they ask you, well, what is your plan? Tell them, pass H.R. 508. When they tell you they are against the war but don't know how to leave, tell them, pass H.R. 508. When they tell you they would like to help you out, but you know the president has all the power, you tell them, pass H.R. 508. Your voices have not gone unheard. They have life in H.R. 508, and I pledge all of my heart and all of my soul to this cause. In the name of national security, fiscal sanity, and common decency, together we will bring our troops home. Thank you.
Now, we're going to move on to someone who's been working long and hard. She's the chair of the Out of Iraq Caucus, the largest caucus in the House, Maxine Waters. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I would like to first thank all of you. You are the real patriots of America. You have come here today to save your country, to change the direction of this country, and to tell George Bush, hell no, we won't go. I stand firmly with you. My name is Maxine Waters, and I'm not afraid of George W. Bush. My name is Maxine Waters, and I'm not intimidated by Dick Cheney. My name is Maxine Waters, and I have to get rid of Rumsfeld. My name is Maxine Waters, and Connie Rice is nothing but another neocon, and she doesn't represent me. George W. Bush led us into this immoral war. He tricked the American people and he told us there were weapons of mass destruction. He did not tell the truth. He came out on the battleship and said, mission accomplished. He misled us again. He said we were working with the coalition of the willing. It was only a figment of his imagination. He said that we were moving forward with training the Iraqi soldiers who would take over the security. Where are they? They are nowhere. As a matter of fact, they're undermining our soldiers in the civil war. He said we were going to get proceeds from the oil that would be pumped back into Iraq so that it could be reconstructed. As a matter of fact, he told us he made these decisions. He said he is the decider. But you know what? He's not the decider. He is the liar. Thank you for being here today. I want you to come to Capitol Hill and lobby on Monday and put some starch in the backs of the members of Congress and give them the courage that they need to do the right thing. It is all right to have some resolutions that are not binding, but the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and that will come when it's time to decide whether or not we're going to fund this immoral war. I will not vote one dime for this war. And when you come up here to lobby, you ask these members, are you going to support an appropriation to continue this war, to expand this war? And you can tell the difference between those who are ready to bring our soldiers home and those who are only paying lip service. Don't forget, he is not the decider, he is the he's not the decider, he is the bring our troops home. Thank you, Maxine. We have elected officials from all levels of government who oppose this war. We're going to hear from a mayor from the Heartland who represents the peace-loving people of Utah, Mayor Rocky Anderson of Salt Lake City.
As Americans, we share common values, values of honesty, compassion, and whenever possible, nonviolence. We also recognize the moral responsibility we have to raise our voices in support of those values when they are under assault. There is no morality without the willingness to act. That's why we are here today. Much is said about family values. Well, in our families, we have learned and we teach the values of telling the truth, of helping those who are in need, and of never resorting to violence except as a last resort. Tragically, those fundamental values have been horribly betrayed, leading to this devastating time in our nation's history. Who among you loves your country so much that you have come here today to raise your voice out of deep concern for our nation? Who among you embraces the fundamental values underlying our Constitution so dearly that you have come today to let the world know that we as Americans abhor the kidnapping, disappearance, and imprisonment of people without any semblance of due process? That we as Americans abhor unconstitutional, worthless wiretapping of American citizens. That we as Americans abhor the torture of human beings. And that we as Americans will always stand up and fight against an outrageous, tragic, so-called preemptive war that violates international law, that has alienated many of our longtime allies around the world, and that was sold to the American people and to the world at large on the basis of blatant lies. We are here because we value compassion, truth, and human rights so much that we want the world to know how embarrassed we are, how sad we are, how outraged we are that our president and a complacent Congress, with the aid and assistance of a dismal mainstream media, have caused millions of people so much pain and tragedy. That is not what we as Americans stand for. That is not what our country stands for, and we want the world to know it. We are here today as true patriots. Blind obedience to bad leadership is not patriotism. Maligning the patriotism of others who stand up out of concern for the betrayal of our most cherished values is not patriotism. To sit back and let others fight for a return to decency, for a return to the rule of law, for a return to the values of truth, compassion, and human rights is not patriotism. And sending our servicemen and servicewomen into harm's way without an honest justification, without competent leadership, and without a coherent plan is not patriotism. We are here today to tell and to demand the truth. That's what patriots do. That's what people exercising their moral responsibility do. We forfeit our humanity when we refrain from saying no more to wrongdoing. We are here today to say no more. Let's hear it. No more. No more Iraq war. No more. No more God is on our side religious nonsense to justify this immoral, illegal war. No more torture of human beings. No more. No more denial of the right of habeas corpus. No more kidnapping of people and sending them off to secret prisons and nations where they will be tortured. No more centrally owned, hysteria-driven corporate news media complicit in selling the Bush administration's lie to the American people. No more. No more unconstitutional wireless wiretapping of American citizens. No more wars to provide a fix to oil-addicted American consumers. No more manipulation of national intelligence for political purposes. No more manipulation of our news media with false propaganda. No more authoritarian assertions of power by the President of the United States. No more silence by the American people. We will continue to resist the lies, the deception, the outrages. We will insist that peace be pursued and that as a nation we help those in need. Let us join together to break the cycle of hatred, of intolerance, of violence. Let us build a better nation and a better world together.
Thank you, Rocky. Our next speaker is from Iraq. His name is Riyad Jarrah. He is working with us in the United States.
Now! Troops home 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 now!
Now, we've come to a very important point in our program. We're going to hear from the military vets. We're going to hear from the Iraqi vets. We're going to hear from the military families and the Gold Staff families. David Klein, the president of...
I'm here today speaking on behalf of Veterans for Peace, Vietnam Veterans Against the War, and a number of veterans who are not a member of any group but are here today. We're made up of veterans who served in World War II, Korea, mainly Vietnam, and the Gulf War. And many of us have been in Vietnam and saw this whole thing before. We've seen this whole cycle before. That's why many of us opposed this war before it started. I can remember in January 2003, marching right here in Washington, and I also remember it was a lot colder then, so thank the gods for better weather. You know, when we go in the military, everyone has to take an oath to uphold the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And our greatest enemy today is not foreign, it's domestic. The other day when George Bush was giving his State of the Union speech, he said, whatever way you voted, you did not vote for failure. But now that was a real oxymoron. But I'll tell you what, we didn't vote for war either. And I don't think too many people would vote for him if he ran for office right now. Now, yep, okay. You know, when we march, we use cadence to march, so I'm going to wrap up by leading you in a cadence. I'll call it and then you respond. Hey, hey, Uncle Sam. Hey, hey, Uncle Sam. We remember Vietnam. We remember Vietnam. Congress must defund the war. Congress must defund our troops back to our shores.
Bring our troops back to our shores.
Am I right or wrong?
Now, Brenda Hervey from Military Families Speak Out.
Good afternoon. My name is Brenda Hervey. I'm a member of Military Families Speak Out from Sioux City, Iowa. On November 2nd, 2006, my stepson Michael was seriously injured when an IED exploded near his Bradley vehicle in Al-Anbar province, Iraq. He was on his second deployment, serving on stop-loss orders. In November, the American people made clear their overwhelming opposition to the war in Iraq. But the question remains, will the newly elected Congress take swift and firm action, or will President Bush be allowed to continue the occupation unchecked? In February 2007, the appropriations bill will come before Congress seeking $100 billion to continue this war. We need our senators and members of Congress to understand you cannot both oppose and fund this war. My stepson is now recovering in Germany, but because of George Bush's escalation, he may have to go back to Iraq if his unit's extended. The most supportive thing Congress can do now for my son, our troops, and the people of Iraq is to stop funding this war. I am proud to join over 3,200 Military Families Speak Out members across the country when I say, not one more dime, not one more day, not one more life, not one more lie. End the occupation, defund the war, bring our troops home now, and take care of them when they get here.
Our next speaker is representing Gold Star Families for Peace and Gold Star Families Speak Out, Carlos and Melita Arredondo.
I want to introduce Gold Star families, fathers and mothers, please in the front and both sides right now. Gold Star mothers, Gold Star fathers in the front, please. Please, right in the front.
This is the cost of war.
Please in the front. Gold Star mothers. I want to say thank you for making a difference in this country. Your first amendment of the Constitution allows for you to be here. And remember, it's not what the country can do for you, it's what you can do for your country. How moral is for those people up there who don't do nothing about it. When you're looking backwards in a few years from now and say, my God, I was there, thank God there's something about it. We have mothers and fathers from Iran, Argentina, Costa Rica, California, Boston. We are from everywhere. And we are here to honor our sons and daughters. As a Gold Star father, I'm honored to represent these families here, to remember that we're here. We've been talking to senators, congressmen, letting them know that we are going nowhere till the green goes home. Green goes out of Iraq. Green goes out of Iraq. I want you to know that. Green goes out of Iraq. You know why is that? Because we had to stop the fun of the war. Green goes out of Iraq. Green goes out of Iraq. I can spell in 2 languages, impeach and juicio. I have a moral duty to protect the Constitution of the United States from foreign and domestic threats. And that's why we are here.